Hello everyone, my name is Thomas Ambetsa. Today we are going to look at an overview of Azure. So our topic today will be an overview. We'll be speaking of the fundamentals. What do you expect while we are diving into Azure, and how do we go forward? So remember in our previous video, we did look at cloud computing. We look at the advantage of cloud computing. We looked at platform as a service. We looked at infrastructure as a service. Now we'll here in this lecture we are going to demonstrate on how that works with Azure. So remember, so an overview of Azure. Azure is just like other cloud platforms. You remember we have three or more cloud platform in this world. We have Azure, we have Google Cloud, and we have AWS, which is Amazon Web Service. So those are the basically three major cloud platform that we have. For this lecture, we shall start with the Azure Cloud Service. So Azure is just basically cloud. So what a cloud service provide, they provide you compute, storage, and AI capabilities in the cloud, so that you have their servers hosted everywhere. Like example, in Azure, they have more than 35 data centers whereby they store their data and servers there that they can be able to use, and these servers are stored in different part of the world. Like we have one in Asia, we have one in America, so that if one fails, the other one will be able to take part of whatever the other one was doing. So they provide you reliability, scalability, and you can be able to move your data from any service that you want. So in this lecture we are just going to talk about the overview for today, and then the next ones, the preceding one, we shall just going to deep dive into the deep understanding of each and everything that we are going to talk today. So today's lecture is more of an overview of Azure, just introduction to Azure, and then now we are going to deep dive in the next coming lecture. So what is Azure? So Microsoft Azure is a comprehensive cloud computing platform provided by Microsoft. It offers a wide range of services including computing power, storages and database, networking, analytics, artificial intelligence, and more. Azure enable organization to build, deploy, and manage application and services through Microsoft global network of data center. So yeah, also the advantages that come with Azure, they come with scalability, global reach, hybrid capability, security, and compliance. So one would ask now that why would we choose something like Azure over something to do with AWS, over something to do with the Google Cloud? The first thing that you usually look for while choosing a platform, usually look for support. That's the first thing that you look for: support, ease of use of the cloud platform. Remember, what makes Azure more popular is its portal. I'll show you the Azure portal so that you see why it makes it more popular. The Azure portal, because of its ease of use, and also since Azure, there are people already using Microsoft services. Things to do with Windows, things to do with Windows servers. So them migrating their data into a Microsoft Azure cloud becomes more easier than them migrating the data to something like a Google Cloud or an Amazon cloud. So another thing that makes Azure popular is the Azure AD, the identity management in Azure. It's way simpler compared to maybe identity management in AWS and Google. Those are things that make Azure more popular. And also Azure is used by Fortune 500 companies. If you don't know Fortune 500 companies, you can also read about them. Basically the big companies that hold this world together, they are called Fortune 500. They are 500 companies or more that hold the world together. They majorly use Azure as their cloud services. And remember, Azure Azure grows much faster than the AWS. Though AWS is more popular, and Azure is in the middle. and then the Google Cloud now comes in at the last option in a matter of cloud. So now in this here, I'll now tell you, there are people who've been telling me to improve my voice, so I'm hoping with the next coming lectures, as time goes by, everything will be improved and videos will be more refined going forward. But give the thumbs up to this video if you're already liking it. And yeah, this is a platform where you learn a lot in cloud computing, you learn a lot in development, you learn a lot on how to secure jobs as a developer or as a cloud computer. What type of papers do you need? Majorly I'll be focusing in Kenya because that's where I am at. So apologies to the people who are watching me from overseas and the people who are watching me from other countries. So let's continue. So this is some overview of just the Azure architecture on how it is. So we have different views. When you get into Azure architecture, you have your application. You have the application view. This application view is where you host your application and you can be able to view your application. So the application view depends on something known as a platform view, which offers you platform as a service. These are things that you'll need in order to make your application work much better in Azure. So those are platform as a service. So we have something like App Fabric. App Fabric, now there are services that provide platform as a service, whatever it needs to run. So like example, and then App Fabric controller, they provide the CPU to technologies that are used with App Fabric for your platform to run. And then the App Fabrics and then the platform as a service, it depends on infrastructure. The infrastructure, things to do with the virtual machines that helps the platform to run in Azure. And then we have Fabric and Fabric controller, they control the CPU, the compute and the storage capability of the infrastructure, which is the infrastructure in Azure. So from this, you can be able to see that Azure will provide you things to do with a platform as a service. They will provide you things to do with infrastructure as a service. They'll provide you things to do with yeah, I think those are the major ones. And then you'll have things to do with serverless architecture, which we'll dive into. Well, remember, when you're talking serverless architecture, we talked about things to do with functions. So first of all, before we dive even into serverless architecture, I'll show you how functional programming works, and the architecture and design pattern of functional programming, so that when we are diving into Azure, we already have an idea of whatever we'll be working with. So when you talk about functional programming, we'll know the basic rules of functional programming. I know most of you know about functional programming, but now we shall dive deeper into functional programming so that you see how it's very useful. Yeah, so we shall dive deeper into that. And then you remember the major things that make this platform good. Remember, it's the compute and the storage capabilities of this cloud platform. And of course, whatever means by cloud is just that there are different data centers around the world, which businesses hire them or rent them in order to use them. So that's what cloud offer. Yeah, if you can't remember that lecture, please go and check the previous lectures about cloud computing. I did explain that clearly. The links will be in the description, just in case you don't get anything or you want to get more clear understanding as we're going on in this lecture. So here we shall talk about things that Azure control and things that you can control. So like example, if you talk about package software, so Azure provides you package software in terms of application, data, the runtime, the middleware, in terms of OS level, in terms of virtualizations, servers, storage, and networking. So there are different package software for this stuff. Like example, the applications, we have OpenID, we have functions, we have Azure AKS. Those are types of example of applications that Azure provide you. Data, we have Azure data lakes, we have data factory, we have application runtime, we have middleware. For OS level, we have VMs, Virtualization also, you have VMs, you have containers that Azure provides you, you have nodes, servers. Azure provide you different servers so that you can be able to see those servers depending on each region. Example, you'll be able to see US, UK South server. You could be able. Remember, if you're not getting this, we shall be able to do a practical example in our next lecture, so that you be able to see these things as we continue. So I would highly regard that you subscribe as we continue, so that you'll be able to see this in the next coming lecture. So in terms of storages, Azure provide you databases such as Azure SQL services. In terms of networking, we have things to do with application gateway, API, that will be able to provide you things to do with networking and load balancing, and we shall be able to see how to manage WAF and security as we continue. So remember, Azure provide you, I said Azure provide you infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So in infrastructure as a service, it provides you things to do with the application, what you can manage application data, you can manage runtime, you can manage middleware, you can manage the OS. Azure, you will manage the OS. All these things to do with virtualization, things to do with servers, things to do with storages and network. This will be managed by Azure. So while you're doing infrastructure as a service. So but also remember remember you can also, I think, manage networking using things to do with API management, API gateway. But remember, this is in the application level. Yeah, so you'll be able to manage it in application level. You won't really configure the networks up like peer-to-peer connections for your VMs to work. So all this will be managed by Azure, but now in the application level is whereby you'll be able to create your IPs, your subnets, which you can be able to connect to. So it will be in the application level. Because somebody might wonder, like, why are we saying that Azure will manage application data, runtime, and middleware and OS, but we are saying that virtualization, servers, storages, and networking will be managed by Azure. Somebody thinks that we are managing networking. By me saying that networking will be managed by Azure, I mean the physical networks. And like example, the peer-to-peer groups, the hubs, the connection of the hubs and stuff, those will be managed by Azure. But in the application level, whereby we are managing how the data is flowing through different networks, that we can be able to manage it by ourselves. I hope that's clear. So in platform as a service, what we shall be able to manage is application and data. That's the only thing that will be able to manage applications and data. Like example, let's say you are creating a function app that can be able to, or a logic application that has just a logic of whatever you need to do. So the logic itself will be mapped to maybe a DB in Azure, and then maybe you can pull that DB and then display to the user whatever you use. I'll be able to show that with an example, don't worry. Yeah. So in this, you just manage those two, and then the runtime, middleware, the OS, the virtualization, the servers, the storages, and the networks are being managed by the Azure platform itself. So I hope that's clear, and I think from the infrastructure as a service, I've already explained what it means by networking, storages, and servers and virtualization that are being managed by the Azure. In software as a service, everything will be managed by Azure. So Azure will be able just to provide you a software like MS Fabric is a software which or the Power BI, which is still a software, or let's say example Office 365, we can be also provided by Azure, which is just a software. So for you, you just know how to use the software. You don't know how the application is hosted there. You don't know how the data comes in there. You don't know how. Of course, you can be able to configure that. But now, when you start configuring, now you're using Azure's platform as a service. You're no longer using it as a software as a service. So I hope that's clear, because you're using application to configure how the data flows. Like example, if you're using Azure Data Factory, that is a platform as a service, because you're just configuring your app to see how the data flows. So you might find sometime you combine all these three into one for your application to be effective and useful going forward. Because sometimes maybe you might want to include to check to create an infrastructure that you'll be able to input there your application, and then now you use some other application like Data Factory, or maybe or maybe Azure Hub, Service Hub, to push in your, to move your data around. And then you might want to display your data and use something known as Power BI or Azure Analytics, so that you can be able to do some analytics on your web, on your site. So remember, so in software as a service, everything will be managed by Azure. So what will be provided for is just a software for you to be able to use. Okay, so in terms of costing, the further you move to the right, the further you move to closer to software as a service, the pricing is becomes lower than the further you move to, but the further you move to infrastructure as a service, the pricing become higher. So if you're creating your own VMs, you're creating your own, you're trying to configure networks in application level, remember that pricing becomes a little bit higher than you just having maybe let's say a service that is running like a Power BI that gives you whatever you want. That becomes a little bit cheaper. So in terms of costing and high agility, because when you try to move to the VM side, you're creating an extra resource into the server. You're like renting an extra resource from the Azure platform, those data centers. So it becomes a little bit costly. It becomes a little bit costly because those people have to create for you a room there, and they'll be able to use App Fabric to give you a CPU, GPU power, and other kernels, and maybe they give you a Linux kernel, they install it there. So it becomes a little bit expensive for us to manage, for Azure to manage that. So that's why the cost becomes a little bit higher compared to you just using software as a service, because those softwares are already optimized to do whatever they want them to do. So that's something that you need to put in mind. Though we shall just later in the video, or maybe in another lecture, we shall look at cost management in Azure, whereby you can be able to monitor your costs, and you can be able to configure your service so that you use low cost, and you can be able to get a notification based on your usage. Just if you've ever used something as Amazon Web Service, you can be able to, it will almost work the same way. Actually, it will work the same way, not almost work the same way. So that's something that you need to put in mind. And remember, if you've not yet subscribed and like the video, please like the video. It helps me put more content in this video. And because sometimes creating these things are not easy, I have to do research, I have to create the presentations, I have to prepare in time. So sub to the channel will be really grateful. Thank you. So there are three components. There are three main components that Azure offers. There are virtual machine, cloud services, and websites. So virtual machines, these are the things where you'll be able to put in your data. So yeah, like example, a virtual machine will be a Linux server. There will be a virtual machine which will be split up by Azure, which might be a Linux server. And then you have cloud services. So in cloud services, these are things that will be offered to you as an application, as a service, which you can use. And then you have website, which you can always use. Also, we have things known as web services in Azure, which provide you capabilities for you to store and run your static websites in Azure. So those are the three main components that Azure offer. So we shall deep dive into each one of them deeply while going forward in the lecture. So I know this video is a bit longer than the other ones. Please keep in mind that I'm telling you this because some people said sometimes the content was very low, so they could not really follow up with the full video. So just why I decided to bombard you with all this stuff in one video. But please comment whatever, if you feel like you like how the lecture is going, and you like any improvement that you want to be done, you can always comment or below the video, so that I'll always respond, and I'll always try to improve it. So our next topic will be now getting into the Azure mechanism on how it works. We shall look at the Azure design pattern. We shall look at implementing scalable application in Azure. We shall look at Azure cloud security in Azure, things to do, how to configure WAF. WAF means wireless application firewall. So we shall try to use how to configure IP, specific IP, to use whitelist IPs, that you shall be able to look on how to do them in Azure. We shall also try to look designing IoT solutions in Azure. We shall also we shall look at that, and then we shall look at designing and implementing data solution in Azure. We shall try to see how data can flow from your application into Azure, into the database. So we shall try to look at Data Factory, Azure SQL services. Those are the things that we shall try to focus when you're looking at designing and implementation of data solutions in Azure. The next topic we shall try to look at is designing and implementation serverless solution in Azure. This is whereby we shall look at functional applications. Remember, when you're talking serverless or solutions, we mean that you are creating functions that can be able to do a specific task, and then you host them in Azure. So that the Azure itself will be able to spin to you the server. We will be able to make sure the server is running, and then it will be able to give the resources required for that application in that server. You don't have to manage that. And so this majorly can be managed through the APM. You can be able to access it through the APM, Azure Application Management, API Management. And or also you can also always create your own independent functions that you do want. So this will go under Azure serverless solution in Azure. So the next thing we shall look is policy designing policies, logs, tabs in Azure. So here we shall look at different policies that are offered in Azure. So remember, policies are just a way of governing whatever, how you want the data to move in Azure, or governing on how you want things to work in Azure. So it's more of just policing. That's from the word police comes policy. So those who are wondering what are policies, so it's just a way of implementing on how you want your application to work in Azure. So like a policy you would be like your application needs to use we have in Azure, we have two policies. We have inbound and outbound policy. So like a policy would be like you want your application to use an authorization token. So you implement a policy that says in when somebody makes this request, the headers must always have an authorization token. So that's a policy by itself. So those are just what is known as a policy. So with the next thing we shall deep dive into Azure DevOps. But before we do that, we shall talk about what is DevOps. We shall try to talk about what applications that can run in DevOps, or technologies that you can use in DevOps. First of all, we shall look at Azure Kubernetes services. We shall look on how to connect Azure with GitHub actions. So to implement CI/CD, we shall look at how to implement Azure with Azure Jenkins, just in case we want to do that. Now we shall also look on how to develop Azure DevOps portal, on how you can be able to manage those, and you can be able to create Azure boards where people can post their complaints and stuff. And we can be able to we shall be able to create an application that moves from end to end from Azure repositories. When a developer hosts it in Azure ACR is just a container registry where somebody can host the application. So we shall try to look how the data flows from when somebody hosts the application in Azure ACR to when it will be deployed. And then the thing that we shall check next is cost management in Azure. Those are the things that you shall check, and then you shall look at monitoring and auditing. So this monitoring and auditing is whereby we shall look on how to collect logs in Azure, how to monitor application health in Azure. So those are the things that will come in our next topic. Please subscribe to be able to get deep dive into these topics. So I'll go in them one by one so that all of you can be able to understand whatever is happening. And if you have any questions, suggestions, or anything that you want to comment, please always the comment section is available. Make sure you comment there and like and subscribe to the video. So thank you. You can be able to get me on email as handlings@254@gmail.com if you just need to be able to get me on email. So thank you.